Okay, we're pretty much coming to the end of this part 2 of the review. Now we're really just looking at some trig graphs, problems 18 through 21, and then also 22. And I've actually made a video on this before, so I'm just going to do maybe one of these problems and go through it pretty quickly, because you can refer to the other video for a more thorough explanation. Matter of fact, maybe I'll just do 19. It says find the amplitude, period, and phase shift and sketch the graph. So here's my equation. Y equals 2 sine of 2x. Now I know my base equation is a sine bx plus c, right? So I know the amplitude is a. Well, let me just show you. So a is going to be 2, b is going to be 2, and c is 0. The amplitude is just equal to a, so it's 2. The period is 2 pi over b. Since b is 2, it's 2 pi over 2. The period is going to be pi. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and figure out my key points. The key points, as always, you take the period divided by 4. So when I go do my graph, my tick marks on my x-axis are going to be every pi over 4. Now the phase shift is negative c over b, but since c is 0, there is no phase shift. So now if I want to graph this, for my x-axis, I use my little key point calculation. So every pi over 4 is going to be a tick mark. So there's pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and then pi. Once again, when I do 4 tick marks, I will have ended up getting to my period. My period's pi. Since the amplitude is 2, on the y-axis, I'll mark 2 and negative 2. And now since there is no phase shift and it's a sine wave, I know it's 0, the sign is 0, so my graph starts at 0. At my first key point, it maxes out. The next key point, back to 0. The next key point, it goes down to the negative value, and then back to 0. So there's a rough sketch of that. Not too hard. Let's maybe do one more. How about number 20? Number 20 looks like it has a phase shift, which is a little more complicated. Y equals cosine of 1/2 x plus pi over 2. So it looks like a is going to be 1, right? There's nothing in front of the cosine. B is 1/2, and c is pi over 2. So the amplitude is 1. The period is 2 pi over 1/2. If you do this little calculation, you end up with 4 pi. So the period is 4 pi. Let's do my key points. So the period divided by 4 is just pi. And now a phase shift is negative c over b. So negative and c is pi over 2 and b is 1/2. When you do this math, you end up with just negative pi as my phase shift. All right, so let's see if we can figure out how to graph this. This one might be a little tricky. What I'll probably do is sort of lightly sketch in the graph without the phase shift, and then try and apply the phase shift and see what happens. So first of all, my key points, give me my tick marks. Pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi. My amplitude is just 1. So on the y-axis, negative 1 and 1. Now let's sketch the cosine. Of course, the cosine starts out at maximum, then it drops to 0, then it goes negative, comes back to 0, and back to its maximum. Now actually I could lightly sketch in this graph, but of course that would not be my final graph because I haven't taken into account the phase shift. The phase shift is negative pi. So what that really says is each of these points gets shifted to the left by pi. It looks like pi is this distance right here. In fact, I can mark on my graph negative pi, negative 2 pi. So I'm going to take each of my points, and I'm going to move it this distance to the left, and I'm going to sort of circle it so I know these are my new points. So this one would go here, this one would go here, this one would go here, this one would go here. So now, that should be the graph. All right, so we've done those before, but hopefully you're starting to figure out how to do those.